Evo was always the prestigious tournament, like this is the tournament to win, but now there's so many Evo champions, like I don't know who won, I don't know, Evo Japan Grand Blue this year.
And then MvCI, the trailer comes out, and Chun-Li, her face is just messed up, and then everyone looks like they've been, you know, on a bender for the past 3 weeks and are like trying to go sober finally. Like,
I don't know if you had the same experience I did, but in Evo 2023, the last one at the Mandalay, I was in line for 3 hours waiting for my ticket to get in for my pool.
That's the core issue of what the Tekken player base is going through, is that they keep having elements added to the game, compromising the game that they enjoy to add elements to make it something that it's not, to attract a wider audience. What is going on, Trash Talk and extra trashy fans? We're back with another one, a little impromptu podcast here at the end of the 2024 calendar year. It is currently December 29th, Sunday. We're nearing the end of the year, and I brought back my main man, iDom here. How's it going, iDom?
What's up? How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing good. I'm glad you responded because, you know, holidays are going on. I kind of dropped the ball once again on scheduling guests and getting the ball rolling on the podcast, but glad to hear you were available so that we can talk about all the interesting things going on in the FGC today. And we have a couple of topics lined up, and of course the main one we're going to get into is how, you know, it's the end of the year, so everyone wants to take a moment to look back, and they're not looking back just to this whole year, but they're going back even further, because it was finally time for the Street Fighter V nostalgia wave to kick in, because it seemed like overnight half of it, like if you follow a lot of FGC Twitter accounts, half those accounts all started posting old Street Fighter V highlights, and it was pretty funny because it seemed like a lot of people were enjoying going down memory lane, enjoying some good times the previous entry in the series, but also at the same time there's a lot of people pissed like really upset that people were having fun. So I'm not sure if you've seen all this going on, and what your thoughts about it are.
It's funny because like I love Street Fighter V. You know, I'm a Street Fighter V fan. You know, that was kind of not my first fighting game, but it was kind of one of the fighting games that got me real invested. Like I would go to tournaments for like Marvel 3, but Street Fighter V was, I think, the first time I left New York to play in a tournament. And, you know, that was for Street Fighter V. So it's cool to see all the, you know, Street Fighter V praise and nostalgia. But at the same time, bro, I don't forget that everyone hated that game when it first came out. Like, where is all this coming from? Like, what happened to Street Fighter V was the worst Street Fighter, and, you know, this game's terrible. Where did all those guys go? Now everyone's just being super reminiscent. Like, you gotta remember the good times for sure, but I still remember a lot of the bad times as well.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the funny thing, is that it happens to all of us. Like, we psychologically bundle all of our social media feed as being like one group, which is a consensus that is reached by all the people of the group, right? So if you're looking at FGC Twitter, you're like, okay, these are all people who have the same opinions, right? And so the opinion of Street Fighter V, especially, I mean, it's persisted forever, was this game is ass, right? Because it released objectively unfinished and objectively, you know, terrible. Like, I think Street Fighter V was grounds for like a class action lawsuit, like how badly they burned the customer, kind of like, you know, what happened with Cyberpunk. Like, Street Fighter V could have definitely had the same treatment as Cyberpunk got.
It's funny you brought up Cyberpunk. I remember I got Assassin's Creed Unity. They refunded everyone for Unity because it didn't work.
Wow.
And you got a free Ubisoft game because of how bad Assassin's Creed Unity was. It didn't function. There was so many glitches. You couldn't play the game because sometimes it was soft lock as well. It's funny you actually brought that up.
What year was Unity? When did that happen?
2013 or 14.
Really? Before Street Fighter V that happened?
Yeah.
Ah, that's interesting. I didn't realize that, because to me, Cyberpunk was like the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of like consumer protections, because it was such a big release upcoming. I had so many expectations, and the marketing around it was kind of misleading, and then it just wasn't a functional product, right? They released something that didn't work. So I think that having some actual legal repercussions behind it was good for the consumer. That's interesting that it was before Street Fighter V that came out in 2016, because I felt Street Fighter V was like kind of right there. Like, that game did not work upon release. The online wasn't functional, and beyond that, just it was kind of a ripoff with the lack of content and everything. But anyways, The game did improve a ton over time, but of course you can never overcome first impressions, and there's an argument to be made that you shouldn't overcome them, right? But like for me, someone who stuck around, and I think for you as well, like I really grew to appreciate Street Fighter V over time, and the last seasons were amazing, and I loved playing it, and I loved playing Oro in the end. So I definitely understand people looking back at it, and also like my original point, I think a lot of people who were celebrating these moments from Street Fighter V, they weren't necessarily the same people complaining about the game. Now, maybe some of them, if you dug through their tweet history, were like, fuck this game, whatever. But until you do that, I think we have this problem where we assume that they're all part of the same voices that we hear critiquing the game. But actually, there's people who, throughout the entire lifespan of Street Fighter V, or at least for the end years, always enjoyed it.
Yeah, there are so many people who were just like, oh man, 5 came out, it was bad. And then like that was what, 7-8 years of like no Street Fighter consumption, nothing to do with Street Fighter. They were just like, yeah, this game's not for me, I'm not gonna play it. And just waited all the way until like, hey, Street Fighter 6 came out, and then, you know, back into Street Fighter kind of thing. So they just like skipped over the whole Street Fighter 5 arc. Nothing happened, no kind of understanding. It was just like an empty void of like no Street Fighter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame them for doing that either. Yeah. It was Capcom's fault up front, but I would say to people, I always repeat that to people who like critique Street Fighter V heavily. It's that the end season version of Street Fighter V is not how it was upon release at all. They're worlds apart, and I think Street Fighter V in the end was a great product, amazing value. Like it was like always on sale for dirt cheap with 45 characters. Like you can get the whole thing with all the DLC characters for really cheap. And they slightly improved the net code here and there. There were still major problems if you didn't play on PC, for example, and have like kind of selective matchmaking. So it wasn't perfect by any means, but the gameplay itself in the right conditions was great. Like it was really engaging and dynamic in a lot of ways. But the funny thing I think about this whole moment of, I think a lot of people that I've seen looking back on these moments were people who were very upfront about enjoying Street Fighter V, and also very upfront about being like, Street Fighter 6 is not for me. I don't think a lot of the clips I've seen are from members of the community that I know have not been toxic about Street Fighter 6 or anything. They're not like, they're like, hey, you stop having fun. You're a scrub if you like Street Fighter 6. They're just, you know, they liked what they liked, and their taste didn't evolve with time, and that's totally normal. Like, I think that's totally fine. You're always going to lose a percent of the community and also gain a larger percent, hopefully, as you move to the next iteration. But then because of that, I think the backlash from people saying, wow, you guys all said this game sucked, this game is trash, don't ever look back fondly on this game. I think that is kind of the weirder part of this whole moment in time to me, is how angry some people are about people being naturally nostalgic for a game they put hundreds of hours into and enjoyed. Like, I don't know if you're seeing a lot of those reactions on Twitter yourself.
It's like I said, to me it's like I don't want to, you know, put them all together, but you know, the anime profile pics, the, you know, the no faces are always the I know, but all those dudes, the people who were just saying like, you know, Street Fighter 5 was bad. Like I said, I was on the same boat. I was like, yo, SF5 was trash. The first season of SF5 was really bad. I was having fun playing Lore in season 2, but the first couple of seasons were really bad, so it was just, what are you gonna do? And then, you know, the game got better. I have like some of my favorite Street Fighter 5 moments. Like I was going through some of my old clips of, you know, just Street Fighter 5 nonsense, Laura V-trigger comeback, mash and medium kick. And I was, you know, looking back with, you know, cheesy grin on my face. But seeing all the other clips, you know, I seen some, you know, cool Ken stuff. I still remember Angry Birds Zeku, the one he was fighting Shuto's Yuri, and somebody reposted that where he had mirror up and he was shooting fireballs and he activated V trigger, ran through all of it and super through it. Like that kind of stuff is hype, and like it still happens in 6 obviously, but like looking back at some of this 5 stuff is just like, wow, I forgot this even happened. It was kind of hype.
Right. I mean, there's a larger body of work for 5 too. And I don't want this to totally be about comparing the games, because I don't think that's the spirit. I think that's like the weird part about the backlash of this, that people are treating it as a critique of Street Fighter 6 when people look back to Street Fighter 5. And also it is unfair to compare them. Like, we're in year 2 of Street Fighter 6. Like, if you compare that to Street Fighter 5, I think Street Fighter 6 has a great future ahead of it, I hope.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, Street Fighter 5 didn't get good till much later, and then also it had years of tournaments a great offline with a much stronger tour structure to encourage more hype moments to occur as well. So like it was able to accumulate these moments over a longer period of time. So of course, looking back on the body of work that the community did through that game, there's going to be a lot of great moments, and Street Fighter 6 has plenty of time to make that happen. Like, and there's already been a bunch of great moments in Street Fighter 6. So I think if you enjoy Street Fighter 6, you don't have to be defensive about people liking Street Fighter 5. And if you like constantly hate on Street Fighter 5, I also think, hey man, like there was good times to be had in that game too. Let people look back. And then the one last point I have about that is, even if the people I mentioned before, who I said they aren't the same people, the ones who critique Street Fighter 5 and are looking back on it fondly, because that would be hypocritical, right? I would even excuse people a little bit if they were, because one thing to remember is that with any competitive game, what you're seeing in the day-to-day, like the real time, is people venting frustrations about going through growing pains, competing. Competing is stressful. It is not all sunshine and rainbows. You're purposely challenging yourself in a way where you're putting your mind under stress, which leads to your body being under stress in order to grow in some capacity. So it's not a casual, fun gaming experience. So in the moment, there's a lot of pain that comes with playing a competitive game at all levels. There's a little bit of a masochism that exists with competing, right? But the point of it is that you do that so that you can grow as a player and accumulate more skills, and then have that translate to, you know, pride in your growth and potentially even success in like a competitive endeavor, right? And even if you don't get competitive success directly by winning tournaments, you can still look back and be proud of your own personal growth. But when you see that in the moment, when people vent about that on Twitter, it's them venting. It's not the highlight. That's the grind, right? So you can't compare the highlight to the grind. So my point being, maybe some of those people posting their Street Fighter 5 highlights today, looking back fondly, in the moment were pissed and stressed and complaining. That's the grind period, right? Like, I think that's totally normal. Every competitive game has people grinding and being pissed in the moment, and then they'll look back fondly after. So regardless of the quality of the game, that can happen. Now, for some people, they might just hate it through and through, and that doesn't apply. That does exist for sure, and the game just wasn't for you. But I think it's normal to be pissed. You see it in every gaming community.
Yeah. Do you have any very fond, Balrog or Oro moments that you can think of?
A ton of them, but I purposely chose to not like participate. I was kind of busy with the holidays at this time too, with everybody doing this. But I already did, like, I had the clips channel, so I have a whole archive at least of all these moments if I want to look back on them. But I don't like to make that a focus of what I do, like on Twitter and content, because I want to always be moving forward. Because, everyone always talks to me about like, oh, your Road to Warlord YouTube series was the best. And I'm like, I appreciate that. That's great. But that was how many years ago now? It's like, I need to keep doing something new. And so if I had to pick one though, it might be the one that comes to mind the most is like the fast fall era with Oro. There's so many eras, but I love that one. Like, because there's such a limited sweet time of window where I got to use fast fall and actually, mix people up with that. And I'm guessing yours might be Capcom Cup. I don't know. You did post about that one.
Capcom Cup was a little something, but yeah, I think mine was probably, I don't know. I was having the most fun when I was just mashing medium kick with Laura. That was my time when it was 5 frames and it was like no repercussion. Good time, man. I just like, it's a simple turn off your brain kind of moment. It was fun. You're abusing glitches. You were abusing glitches, and I'm just mashing medium kick. So it's the same thing. It's something fun in games. I don't know.
Dude, I remember like every time you mashed that medium kick on me, I could feel like the vein in my temple bulging a little bit more. Like I was about to have an aneurysm. I was like, if this mother mashes that medium kick one more time, I'm going to lose my damn mind. Yeah, you caused a lot of chaos with that in season 2. I remember that caused some salts. A lot of people. Yeah, but if anyone has the right to be nostalgic, it is you, right? Like, you did post a Capcom Cup photo. I would not blame you for looking back fondly
that was before the Street Fighter 5 nostalgia whole thing. That was literally just like 5 years ago.
Yeah, I saw crazy. You did that. You tweeted that. You said 5 years ago. That was on the 18th. That's 11 days ago. And I think the trend picked up after that. I wonder if you kickstarted that trend.
I don't know. I was just remembering because I was like, holy shit, this is actually like 5 years ago. Because that was on, like I said, I think that was the 18th, but I think Capcom Cup happened on the 19th or something. I don't remember.
Mm.
But it was like 5 years ago, somewhere around there. And it's just like crazy to see, crazy to like do. Because I like follow a lot of video game like stuff. And like, it makes me feel old when like, I think like a couple of days ago, somebody posted like, oh, Super Mario Sunshine's like 23 years old or 22 years old or something. And I'm like, oh damn, that's crazy. And then it's like, oh, I could do that with like Capcom Cup or something.
Man, you made me feel real old because Super Mario Sunshine is like my favorite game. Ah, crap.
I think I saw Halo 3 is like 2025 or something, or 24.
And gaming has not gotten better since. That is the crazy part to me. The crazy part to me is I always look at Halo 3 as like the gold standard for a gaming package, and not hardly any other games have ever come even close to matching what Halo 3 provided. It's actually nuts. So, sometimes it's good to look back to learn from the past, but it's also good to keep moving forward. So to everyone who's enjoying their Street Fighter V nostalgia, that's fine. I think that's great to look back at those moments. And people who are getting angry about it, I just think, come on, one day it's going to be you with something. Like, you're going to get old too. No, I agree. You shouldn't be ragging on people living in the present and not look forward to the future. But, we're human. We got emotions. Okay, on to the next one. This one, a bit more personally about it. MvCI Beyond has released. So for people who don't know, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite Beyond is a mod created, or I would say maybe produced and led by Maximilian Dude. Yes, the YouTuber, content creator, Maximilian Dude. He commissioned this mod and worked with a bunch of teams of artists, modders, and I think even voice actors to create a complete repackage of MvCI, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which originally released in, I believe, 2017. And the big thing he was trying to address was the fact that MvCI was so damn ugly on release that nobody wanted to play this game. It was the biggest flop in the Marvel vs. Capcom franchise, and it came out at a horrible time. And from what I understand, Max actually really enjoyed the gameplay of MvCI, but the game died so fast, less than a year of shelf life, from what I recall. And he commissioned this mod which replaced the really bad lighting in the engine, and like the art style I think was fine, but it was accompanied by really bad lighting, which made the game have this mobile game sheen to it. It really did look like it was meant to be like a beat 'em up on a mobile game, and it replaced it with a more cel-shaded art direction, which was a little bit more similar to how Marvel vs. Capcom 3 looked, which I think is I think MvC3 is the most beautiful, soulful fighting game since like 2009, right? That game is beautiful.
Best fighting game ever made. Just gotta throw that in there. Best fighting game.
I agree. So that's the mod, and it released, and it was really successful. And iDom, you've actually played it yourself a lot, right?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of MvCI, but when MvCI first came out in like in 2017, I was playing it and like I was having fun. Like the graphics weren't bothering me. I still had fun, playing my team. I was playing Dante Dorm, top one team in the game, but it was fun. I got to like play a lot of players. I remember playing like Punk, Sonic Fox, Dual Kevin, all like everyone was just grinding, playing the shit out of that game. But I think the real thing that killed Marvel Infinite was it was ugly, but people were still playing and grinding through it. But then Dragon Ball FighterZ came out. I think like 5 or 6 months later. And then as soon as FighterZ came out, vanished. Everything was gone. So that was kind of the that's what I think the nail in the coffin was. But like you said, the game looked like a PS2 game, so I don't blame people for not wanting to play it. But even playing through it, like I've been playing Dorm Strange again. I've been messing around with Dante Ultron, and like the game's still just as fun as I remember playing it. Is it as good as 3? No. I mean, that's still a bit biased, but it's still a very good video game. And Max definitely made the product better by adding like there's new game modes, there's new like there's new modes to try, there's buffs, there have been adjustments, battle adjustments for the characters. They buffed the stone. Thanos has the entire Infinity Gauntlet now, so he has all access to all the stones with new moves. So all that stuff to see is really cool, and like that mod is so sick, and like I love that Max made it. Actually, super dope about the community.
Yeah. It seems like it added a whole new layer to the gameplay. I mean, to me, the main thing is the graphics. Like, I'm gonna be trying out this mod myself. I already bought MvCI. It was on sale like shortly before the mod released, and so I bought it dirt cheap so that I can try this out. Because you mentioned DBFZ coming out a few months, like 6 months later after MvCI. I do agree that that was an issue for the game's longevity, but I think that was the final nail in the coffin because
Yeah, that was it.
that game before it even released, it was already doomed because the first thing that happens, the first big news breakout is there was a release trailer for MvCI, and then Chun-Li's face looked like, I don't know, some kind of possum. Her face was like like the worst case of anime mouse face, possum face. I don't know what it is. It was just not correct. And instantly it started to become apparent that this game was not being handled the same way that MvC3 was. MvC3 through and through, I mean, you could argue about like the ethics and the business practice of doing like Marvel versus Capcom 3, then I think 11 months or 10 months later, Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom 3. That's a whole different discussion. But UMVC3, from start to finish, you feel the passion and you can see the craftsmanship and the work and effort that went into the product. That opening cutscenes that it had, the cinematics, the menus, the music, the characters, the graphics, the stages, everything was beautiful to the core. One of the greatest fighting game experiences from absolute beginner to top level competitor to spectator. Everything about that game I think was amazing, right? And then MvCI, the trailer comes out, and Chun-Li, her face is just messed up, and then everyone looks like they've been, on a bender for the past 3 weeks and are like trying to go sober finally. Like Dante had crackhead face. Something was wrong. Like they all had a rough time. They had a rough day, and the lighting was just wrong. And then on top of that, because it's Disney Marvel and not OG Marvel, they lost the license to the X-Men characters, which are integral to the history and the franchise and the functions meme. Shout out to Combo Fiend. I think he was put into an impossible position. But how is he supposed to handle that when people are like, hey, where's Magneto? Hey, where's Wolverine? Where's Storm? This is Marvel, right? Like, what a messed up position to be in. Yeah, it was doomed.
Yeah. The Ultron function meme is still, I mean, Ultron's just the Magneto function. It's
right.
The tale of the oldest time. But yeah, I mean, it does suck. A lot of players, fan favorites weren't there, like you said, Wolverine. But man, the crackhead Dante, the crackhead Chun-Li. I'm trying to think. Ryu didn't look great either. But like I said, I still think if we look past all the ugliness, the gameplay is still there. The gameplay was really fun. If you're just playing the game, hitting buttons, doing combos, I think Marvel Infinite has, unironically, one of the deepest combo structures of any fighting game. If you're a lab monster, you would love Marvel Infinite training mode, which like isn't the same thing as like other games. Like you could play a game in training mode and then you could play an actual match. It's not the same game. So kind of like stuff like that really helps bring Marvel Infinite to be really good in my opinion. And there's endless training mode content, if that makes any sense.
Right. No, that's great to have. I mean, Marvel's always kind of been that staple. Street Fighter has always been a bit more about the fundamentals in game with a sprinkle of tech on top of it, where games like Marvel blow that open, and they're supposed to be extremely creative games. And MvCI definitely has that. I mean, I have some complaints as a spectator of that game because I did watch it heavily when it released, just to give it a shot because I loved MvC3. I didn't quite love the active tag system because it led to a lot of repetitive moments, I feel like, and maybe that would have evolved with time, but you basically from a layman's perspective, it seemed like it boiled down to get a conversion, go into your move that does a long animation, then do an active tag to your partner, and then you can set up whatever you want after that, and it led to a lot of repetitive cycles, I felt like. But that's just, I wasn't versed in the gameplay itself, so I won't speak too much on that. So I did have some issues there, but the main thing for sure is the looks. People are shallow. Even the menus were mobile UI. There was no character, no love put into the character select screen, which I think is a shame. So this addressed a lot of that, and it's been successful, like you mentioned. Yeah. They just had TNS for this Tampa Never Sleeps, the online tournament weekly series. which has become like the online weekly series in the FGC. It's a giant platform now for fighting game tournament action. And it had a tournament. It only had 81 entrants, but they actually managed to raise $7,500+ in the match arena for the players, and it had a ton of people watching. So it's already shown that it's like a real big spectacle, and people are really interested in it. Is there a reason you didn't enter, iDom? You said you've been playing a lot.
Oh, I was watching Sonic 3. So I haven't.
Gotcha.
I mean, I'm gonna be so honest. That's the reason I.
Okay. Yeah, I was watching Wicked. So how was Sonic 3?
Oh, Sonic 3 was great. I love that movie.
It was good. Okay.
It was funny because I went into it like everyone kept saying it was like the best Sonic movie, and I was like, Sonic 2 is so good though. But I was like, I had my it can't be that good, but it actually was that good.
Okay. I forget you're a Sonic fan because I use Sonic music on my stream and you actually recognize it. When I just stole all that. I don't know anything about Sonic. Yeah, Sonic fans were eating. I saw Wicked instead. We went and go watch that, and it was surprisingly good. I was annoyed that it was a trilogy. I hate this trend of taking things that could be completed in one movie and stretching it out to make a franchise to make more money. And then I complained about that about Dune on Twitter, and I'm in hot water right now with all the Dune fans on Twitter. How I said Wicked Part 1 is better than Dune Part 1 because Wicked 1 finishes and Dune 1 just abruptly stops short in the middle of it for no reason and then makes you come back 3 years later to finish it.
Come on, Brian. You got to think of the bag. You got to think of the bag, the Hollywood bag. Why do 1 when I can do 3?
I know. To be fair to Dune, I don't think that's exactly what it is. They just couldn't finish the movie, but I hate that that you gotta finish a movie. The movie should stand on its own. It shouldn't be 2 parts that require you to go together. Dune 1 should be a full movie, and Dune 2 should be a full movie. Unless you want to make a TV show, then by all means. Anyways, let me not get. I've been arguing about this all day on Twitter. Yeah, MvCI, I'm going to check it out very shortly. Give it a spin. Check it out for the first time. Should be fun. Congrats again to Max on MvCI Beyond and the whole team who worked on that. It's been very successful. That's awesome to see. But as we come to the last segment of this show, it is the end of the year. It's been a full year. We're publishing this maybe a day or two before the year concludes. So we figured we'd look back on 2024 and the FGC and highlight some of the key moments. And I guess the first big moment was Tekken 8 releasing in January, which had a good launch, really good launch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if they're ending the year that strong. I don't know if you've been seeing the reaction from the community lately, but Tekken 8 was very big.
I really like Tekken 8. I played Tekken 8 I played for the first 4 or 5 months, and I picked it back up a bit after Evo, but I really enjoyed the game. Now, I'm not a competitor. Same thing how, people get on me for the Street Fighter 6, complaining and all that. But as a casual or somebody who's just been a long time Tekken fan, because I played all the Tekken growing up, I really liked 8, and I found a character I liked in Asusena, and I was just playing, hitting buttons. Heat was cool, I guess, until I had to guess a few times, but I like I said, I really enjoyed the game for what it was.
Did you play much more after launch? Because we played right away when we had no idea what's going on, and that also wasn't working. But I stuck with it for a little while longer. Did you keep playing Azucena?
Yeah, I kept playing Azucena. They nerfed her one time, and then she got nerfed really badly, and I was like, But I mean, I kept grinding. I kept playing because I was like, I have no plans in competing in this game. I'm just gonna go and press the buttons. I didn't really care. It wasn't the way I saw it. It wasn't my avenue to be complaining. Oh, why did Azucena get nerfed? I was like, what rank was I? I wasn't purple. I was red or something. Something very early on,
right?
And I didn't know what I was doing. If the pros think Azucena is broken, nerf her. I don't care. It has nothing to do with my gameplay. I'm bad because I'm bad.
Very true. I'm glad you have the accountability there. Yeah, I was bad too, but it was fun to mash around in. And I've gone back a few times just to boot up and do some combos. And I mean, I just think in general, Tekken is such a great casual franchise because it's such a watchable game. You can very easily feel the tension in the combat and visually understand what's going on to a degree, right? You might not understand the mechanics in the mix between high low, but But in reality, the highs do look like highs and the lows look like lows. Like you got a lot of good visual feedback to kind of follow the game along, and I think that showed with how successful this launch has been because Tekken 7 and had in my opinion been growing in popularity towards the end, kind of like a Street Fighter 4 sort of period where I felt like Street Fighter 4 was growing until the end, until Street Fighter 5 and the bubble burst, but it was starting to have reach like beyond the FGC and awareness with the tournament community, reaching like other gaming communities and other like popular figures in other gaming communities were paying attention to Street Fighter 4 at the time. Tekken 7 to me was having that sort of similar reach where you saw like big streamers were trying out Tekken 7 and discussing it, and I felt like it had the most buzz in other gaming communities where Street Fighter itself was always like kind of the core FGC audience. And then Tekken 8 really, it blew up in that sense. It was like capitalizing on that, and a ton of new people or returning fans were coming back to Tekken 8 and saw a really big resurgence. So Tekken 8 was a huge launch, huge success, which might not be too apparent considering how negative I feel like the perception is now.
The community is definitely in a weird situation. But completely unrelated. They showed off Clive. I don't even know how to pronounce his name.
Is it Clive?
Clive or Cliff or something like that. The Final Fantasy 16 character. He was not who I was expecting, and I know everyone's probably looking forward towards Tifa or something, but like he was such an out of left field pick. Even when Negan was in Street Fighter, when Negan was in Tekken 7, it was so sick. Like I liked Walking Dead, and I was, oh my god, Negan's here,
right?
So like seeing a character like that, but Clive is just like, I didn't play Final Fantasy 16. Who is this guy? It's just some dude with a sword. Who cares? Kind of thing. I think seeing characters that is the, oh my god, that's so sick, versus I don't know who this guy is. Who's this guy? He just showed up off the street and now he's fighting Jin.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing you were part of the millions of people who are looking for Tifa to be announced.
No, I'm not I don't even like Tifa.
You don't even like Tifa?
No, I'm not a Tifa fan. I'm not.
What? I thought for sure if Tifa was announced, you would have dropped Street Fighter and main Tekken full time. You don't like Tifa?
I'm getting typecasted here. No, I don't.
Absolutely, I'm stereotyping you right now. Based on all your previous picks, Tifa's not your pick?
No. I wouldn't play Tifa.
What, you like the other, what's her name?
Arlia?
Isn't?
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Yeah.
Isn't that the Street Fighter player?
No.
Isn't it Aerith?
Aerith.
Yeah, Arlieth is from the Street Fighter community.
Yeah.
Whoa, shout out to Arlieth. Yeah, Aerith, right? That's her name?
Aerith.
I never actually say her name out loud. I only read it because I actually didn't play Final Fantasy VII. Shocker. Did you play that game?
No, I only played because my friend recommended it to me. So I actually just played recently before Rebirth came out. So I played the remake, and I was playing the game. I was like, holy shit, this is actually really good. And then like I got sucked in and I just like ran through the game so fast.
Gotcha. Yeah, Tifa would have been a much bigger like blockbuster name to feature in Tekken, but they already did that with Noctis in Tekken 7. Did you know anything about Noctis before he was in that game?
No, I saw Noctis, but I was like, oh, new Final Fantasy character. But I knew nothing about him.
Yeah, it seems like they're just trying to have this relationship with Square Enix to like promote their newest character, which I guess is a cool crossover relationship that they have, but it doesn't do too much, I think, to pull in people from outside those core audiences, where like a Tifa would absolutely be massive to have in a game like Tekken. He looks cool though.
He does. I think guest characters help a lot. I think like even when I played Tekken 7, like just to mess around, bro, I thought Akuma was so sick in that game. Unironically, I know a lot of pros were probably like, Akuma is the worst thing that happened to Tekken since, anything that happened before, but I thought Akuma was sick. I was like, yo, this Street Fighter character's in Tekken now? So I think that kind of stuff helps a lot and brings more people into the game, but...
Yeah, I kind of liked how, from an outsider as well, Akuma did seem really sick in Tekken, but everyone hated them. And I think that's the core issue of what the Tekken player base is going through, is that they keep having elements added to the game that they feel, and maybe rightly so, are like sacrificing their own enjoyment and compromising the game that they enjoy to add elements to make it something that it's not, to attract a wider audience. And I think that's kind of the root of like a lot of the discontent right now, because Clive, what I'm hearing is that, you know, he has giant normals, he's really busted. He's playing the game not Tekken like, you know, and I think a
Yeah.
Tekken expert could describe what that is better than I could. But those are the same common complaints that you saw with Akuma. Akuma, he has an air approach. He jumps at you and deletes your half bar. His health, your health bar, and he throws fireballs, and he has a low forward. It's like he's doing things that are not Tekken and being really good at the same time. So I can see why that is very like a negative experience to Tekken players who love Tekken for what it is. But it's an interesting dilemma, because do you want the player base to grow? Maybe, like, you know, it's kind of interesting. It's like at a certain point, you reach a critical mass with any kind of media where, you know, people refer to that as gatekeeping, but you might not necessarily want your game to grow if it means changing it from something that it is to something that it's not currently, and potentially watering down the pure experience of what it is. Not saying that is necessarily what's happening with any fighting game or not, but they're different experiences for sure. So a lot of Tekken fans are really cranky right now. The honeymoon period is definitely over from the outside looking in. And, you know, in my opinion, I think a lot of this could be resolved by just having a higher quality product. Things like Elo system and matchmaking, you know, making sure the netcode is running good. Regular attention to proper balance updates. I think there's a few things that could be done to correct the ship rather than focusing on like cosmetics and guest characters like that. But we'll see. Hopefully for Tekken fans, things improve in the future. Or they're going to keep getting guest characters that completely change how the game plays. I don't know. Well, that's it for Tekken 8 then. I guess the other main event we can talk about is how Evo went down this year. Because Evo this year was different in a couple ways. The first thing, it's the first Evo where they moved it in the past couple of years from Mandalay to the Las Vegas Convention Center. So it had a brand new venue this year, which I know you like. I kind of have mixed feelings about it, but what did you like about the convention center change?
I like the Mandalay Bay, but I think the convention center now is just so much bigger. There's more spacious, and I don't know. It felt like going to the venue was just so much easier. I don't know if you had the same experience I did, but in Evo 2023, the last one at the Mandalay Bay, I was in line for 3 hours waiting for my ticket to get in for my pool. And I remember my pool was at 2 p.m. or it was at 2 or like 12 p.m. or something. So I wasn't in the first wave of pool, but I was like, you know, let me go downstairs, see what's going on, all that. Let me see what the venue's about. 3 hours in line is crazy. And I had to sit there, and they were letting people who had pools in earlier get in. So they got lucky, but I was literally in line for 3 hours, and I was like, yo, I hope next year's Evo is not like this. And the convention center fixed that. I remember this year for Evo, I got in like 10 minutes, like 5 to 10 minutes. So I was just in and out, got my badge, and just went on in. So I think that was way better.
Yeah, that is true. I actually didn't remember that about 2023 and the years before. It was starting to reach definitely this issue of just having too many people, or the system they were using for checking people into the venue just wasn't efficient enough, and people would show up real early, especially for their like 10 a.m. or I don't think they did 8 a.m. pools at this point. They might have, but they had people were showing up early in the morning to be prepared for their pools, and they would just be lined up for hours outside, and then they have to ask people, hey, please let people through who have their pools now. And yeah, it definitely had a cascading effect where pools then would run late, and you know, it had issues with just the logistics of getting people in and out. So yeah, you're right. I didn't even consider that. Getting in and out of the convention center in terms of getting actually into the area with your badge and everything was super easy. I guess the trade-off for that was that Mandalay Bay, it's kind of like an all-inclusive resort. Like if you stayed at Mandalay, or I guess what was the other one? The Luxor. There was a couple of like nearby hotels that were all connected in the same building or underground like pathways. You didn't have to go outside for an entire weekend. You would just stay in the hotels, be connected by the casinos and like the walkways and everything was 100% underground. And in that sense, I really liked Mandalay because it was very easy to walk around and just see the community anywhere and kind of go with the flow and just see what's up. This one with the convention center all the hotels are detached, right? You have to pick random hotels around the area, and they're all within a very reasonable distance, potentially walking distance, or they have like the loop or other ways to get to the convention center. So it's easy to get there, but it was just disconnected. It didn't have the same spontaneous party vibe that Mandalay Bay would offer, just by everyone being connected indoors in the casinos with stuff all around you, right? So that was my only gripe with that change. Felt a little less personal in that sense, but logistically for the actual experience there, way better, way more space, bigger, right? Everything was definitely better day of, except for finals day. That was kind of a shit show.
That was I wish I was inside the stadium or place where the finals are actually being held, because like me and you were both outside because we were just watching, what was it, a projector with, I think Max was on it or something. We just had the we just had to watch from outside.
Just to give context, we were sitting in a group watching the stage. Behind the stage, the projector was going. On the stage was like Max and his crew, the Yo Video Games crew was on the stage. They're watching a computer, watching the main stream of Evo, restreaming on that computer, and the restream featured the feed of a camera way back behind them, so you could see like they were broadcasting the restream on the projector. So in the corner of where the meter should be was Max and his friends, with a camera there looking at the crowd behind them as well. So you could see yourself in the corner of the projector, but that meant I couldn't see the meter. Like I couldn't see what's going on. It was crazy that we're watching Max restream IRL from behind like that. And yeah. Anyways, please.
The stadium was like the stadium was like what, right to the left of us. We could have walked in, but like it was full, and like security wasn't letting anyone in. So that part was kind of not so great. But I think I would rather take that, but then Evo 2023, because I'm telling you, we were so close. We were right on top of each other in Evo 2023. My pool, when I was playing, there was no space. I was like shoulder to shoulder with people, and it was so uncomfortable. Evo 2023, I think, was, because I've been to every Evo since 2017, and I think 2023 might have been my worst experience at Evo. Now looking back at it.
Huh. I didn't really have that negative of an experience in 2023. It's interesting that it wasn't good for you, but I do think there was the signs were clear that Evo was outgrowing the venue, and it's growing in general. I mean, the other issue with that finals day, besides us having to watch an IRL restream, which was bizarre, the line was literally wrapped around the entire venue, and the fire marshal had to come in and like tell people to get out, or else they're going to shut down the whole thing, including like Rick, the organizer. He couldn't get in. Sajam had a story of how he couldn't get in. He went to go to the bathroom, and then he couldn't get into the venue because of the fire marshal as well. And he was commentating grand finals, right? So it was serious how they're like having issues managing people getting into the finals arena, because I believe everyone was given a ticket. If you just purchased a 3-day pass, you were given tickets to the final arena. Where Mandalay Bay, I love the final stadium for Mandalay Bay. The Mandalay Arena, beautiful stage, beautiful stadium seating, grand, huge venue. You had to buy a separate ticket to get in, which helped address the overcrowding issues as well, which, you could argue about that. Like, hey, maybe I deserve to get into the finals because I paid for 3 days. Sure. But it addressed that issue. There was a proper ticketing system with its own security and processing to get people into the venue. So it didn't have any of those issues of overcrowding and huge long lines. But this one, because everyone could get in if they had a ticket for the 3-day experience, the line was literally around the entire venue, like a mile long, wrapped around. It was insane. I couldn't believe it that no one could get in. And even the seating itself and the experience watching it on stream, it didn't look like as impressive of a stage. So that's my one critique of the convention center. The finals day needs to be addressed a little bit better. And also, I just don't enjoy the layout as much for the finals day. Mandalay Bay was like, this is esports, you know what I mean? It gave that impression of the scale. But for our first time moving to the convention center, I think overall it was successful. I think that the 3 days of the regular Evo experience were improved because of that.
I mean, even just getting to play like casuals on the final day also helped a lot. Like you didn't have to
Yeah.
go to like the Hawaiian suite or wherever we would go to somebody's room to play some games. You would just go to the venue and play some dudes. Play some of the international that were there. So that helped out a lot. I do agree with you. The line was very long because I remember I was at like Artist Alley, like getting some stuff, and like the line to get into the arena was all the way down to Artist Alley, which was on the whole other side of the where you walked in from. So the line was too long, but that's not my problem to figure out how to fix. But uh, yeah, I want to say it did. There were some good things that Mandalay did better. I agree with you, like being able to walk around and just see some random dude at like the tables playing, losing their money. You see some of the Japanese players just there gambling, which is always kind of funny and cool to see. But everyone felt more disconnected. But I don't know. I still have very fond memories of Evo 2024 over 23 at least.
Right.
The old ones, 2019 was a good Evo because I was in top 8.
Yeah, why is that one so good, huh? Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed this Evo a lot though.
Right. Overall, more value for the average attendee for sure. You bring up a great point about the casuals. There's way more setups to play, way more room to play. So aside from the Finals Day arena itself, I think overall there's much more value for anyone attending now for Evo. So overall, I would definitely agree it's a good move overall, even though you lose some aspects of the Mandalay venue. But also, Evo announced more Evos as well. As another big announcement from this year, big change, which we haven't seen in action yet. They added the 3 new actual tournaments, I believe. So there's the like Las Vegas award show, which we'll see how that goes on. There's still Evo Japan, and now there's Evo in Nice in France as well. So that's interesting to see that they're adding more tournaments. I'm not sure if you maybe there's one more. Am I missing one?
That's all. I think there's the award show I think it's in California. I think there's regular Evo, there's Japan, France, and there's one more that's going to be moving. I think they said. I want to say
right. Yeah, a rotating target. So I don't think they've announced that one yet. Yeah. So how do you feel about them adding more Evo events? Because I already kind of felt like Evo Japan was already pushing it.
Yeah,
I don't know if you feel the same way.
I agree with you. I felt like Evo, like not to take away from anyone, but like Evo Japan was like the redheaded stepchild of the Evo. So it was like Evo Japan was cool, like you're there, but Evo America was the one you wanted to win. But now they're just adding more, and now it feels like Evo was always the prestigious tournament, like this is the tournament to win. But now I feel like there's so many Evos, so now you're gonna. Before I could tell you almost every Evo champion for every main game, no matter what game you ask. Now there's so many Evo champions. Like I don't know who won. I don't know Evo Japan Grand Blue this year, which kind of sucks because like before it was so easy to keep up with every single different Evo champion, whether it was KOF or Grand Blue or Street Fighter or Marvel or whatever game it might have been. Now there's just so many, and now it's hard to keep track of all of them.
I agree. I'm not sure if they're watering down the brand too much by doing this distributed Evo series or if it's a step in the right direction, because in my opinion, I would have preferred or what I wish is to have Evo Vegas still preserve that legacy of this is Evo, this is the main event, this is the world championship for fighting games, this is the summit, right? Because I think we need that, right? But once they added Evo Japan, I almost don't care if they keep adding events. You've already kind of opened that box. Pandora's box been open. Now there's a second event. You might as well add 3 more or 2 more and have one every quarter, right? Like they already hit that point to me of watering down the brand, and now they just want to saturate the calendar. I think sure, go ahead. So I don't think it's that big of a change since they already did Evo Japan. But I think it does water things down, like you mentioned. It makes it hard to keep track of what is going on in terms of the world champions. And does not to pick on him or anything like that. Like Oil King won Evo Japan for Street Fighter V. Do people consider or think of Oil King as an Evo champion? I think they should, But you get what I'm saying, right? Like, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to diminish his accomplishment. That's a huge accomplishment. But he was in top 8 of Evo 2022 Vegas, I believe, or
Mhm.
maybe it was 2023. I'm mixing up the
Yeah,
years.
no,
No,
it's
yeah, you're
22.
right. 2022, the final Evo for Street Fighter 5. But then he won Evo Japan later that year before Street Fighter 6 came out. And it's like, well, people don't like, it doesn't resonate the same with people. And I think that
Mhm.
sucks. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment for Oil King. But I think that it just illustrates the point of how it makes it so we don't have this singular moment of defining the champion for a year, or it waters that down. But I would
I
still argue that we still look to Vegas as being the champion
mhm.
championship. So it hasn't watered down that much the main Evo. It's just that people forget about the other ones right now.
Yeah, I feel like I like that, there's other regions that they could have Evo at, because I'm it's good for like people from France who, can't travel to America to, play in Evo. So now they'll have Evo France. People in Japan who can't, go to America, they have Evo Japan. So I think all that stuff is good. But even like I said, at the same time, there's Evo America is the one that you want to win, is always the one I feel like people talk about the most. And I feel like even from like a wider audience, most of the casuals are people who don't keep up with the fighting game community that much. No Evo. Like Evo is the tournament. Evo is,
Yeah.
Evo Moment 37, all that good stuff. So they'll watch Evo, but do they know Evo Japan is going to be happening, or Evo France, or Evo, I don't know, other place is going to happen. So it's very hard to keep up with, I feel like.
Yeah, it makes it harder, but I guess Evo is trying to make moves to position themselves as being like the tour, because all these other publishers have tours for their games. Now
Mhm.
suddenly we might have an Evo circuit. Like, there's not really anything connecting these together right now, right? These are just independent stops throughout the year. But Evo, it seems like they're trying to make moves as a brand more so than ever before. They're making a lot of different plays. They're increasing their content output.
Mhm.
They're increasing their partnerships. Now they're adding all these events. They're adding an award show. It seems like Evo is trying to be the brand for fighting games. Like, if you're doing a tournament, it's because it's Evo, not just Evo being the one tournament. This is the series now, and you can partner with
Yeah.
them throughout the series. So who knows? Maybe eventually there will be something that connects these things together, like a circuit. There might even be Evo Premiere, where it's like,
Yeah.
this is after all 4 Evos throughout the year or something. There's the champion of champions, right? Like, who?
The Super Evo. Yeah,
Right, like that one's a qualifier or something, or a tournament like with points. Who knows?
yeah.
It seems like they're trying to expand it pretty aggressively with this move, so we'll see where this goes. If anything, I do like that it gives competition in the event space and the series space to the publishers. I like just having multiple parties trying to grow in that sense, to add competition, to see motivation between all people involved to keep improving the product, right? I think that's
Mhm.
always good. I think having our tours owned top to bottom, by the way, by the publishers, can
Oh,
lead to stagnation and lead to conflicts of
mhm.
interest. So I would like to have another player in that scene, just to, maybe if the Evo Tour is better than the Capcom Pro Tour,
Yeah,
like,
who knows? Who knows?
it might motivate Capcom to step up their tour. So we'll see where that goes. It'll be interesting to see how these future Evo events evolve and how they're received. So that was another big thing this year. And I guess the next one we could think of was Season 2 of Street Fighter 6 released and came and went. I don't know. What do you think about
It,
Season 2?
it was good. It was less, like I said, it was less big, I feel like, than the Street Fighter 5 Season 2 are. What was it? Super, like vanilla to super Street Fighter 4. So
Right.
I think comparing those, it wasn't as big, but it's there. Came and went. I remember still having to go to combo. I went to Combo Breaker and I didn't even play on the patch before I even got to play, because it was literally the patch that came out, and then I left for Combo Breaker right after, and then I was just playing off of Season 1. I didn't know how to do any of the new stuff, so
Right.
I got screwed over. I was playing an entirely new game, and I was just playing like it was Season 1. But I did get 13, so it wasn't that much different.
Yeah, I don't think it was that much different at all. I think at first it seemed like Wake Up Drive Reversal was going to be such a game changer, and it changes the dynamics sometimes. Like, you can get caught off guard trying to overextend your offense and eat a drive reversal for sure. But I think it became apparent that if you stuck with the same airtight flowchart gameplay, you can often be drive reversal safe on wake up and just block, like meaty with a jab and block and punish, right? Or just throw. It added a little bit of an extra layer so that it wasn't such like a gamble between throw, wake up parry, and add another option there. But it's so risky that
Yeah,
it didn't change too much. So
It's,
I think that was the major mechanics change, and I don't think it had too much of an impact in the end.
I think it's good if you have a character without a DP, like playing Manon, it helped. Like it helps sometimes, but even like losing drive meter just for like no damage and just back to neutral is not that great. But I guess you're not dying, you're not losing, I guess. But even then, it didn't change that much. I mean, Chakotay won Gobble Breaker with, Lily doing wake up drive reversal a lot, and I think he was playing Noah. I want to say Noah.
Yeah, Noah was grand finals. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So he did beat Noah with a lot of wake up drive reversal, so it did something there.
Well, like you mentioned, people didn't know the patch yet, right? Like I think people tightened up their gameplay and tightened up their like reactions as well, because you can meaty with a jab and then walk into a drive reversal if you're not like structuring your offense properly and aware of that option, right? So I think people tightened up to make it a little bit less effective. It's still something that it's relevant in the gameplay, but it's not a huge shakeup. Like I would argue that V Shift infinitely changed the meta of Street Fighter V far more than Wake Up Drive Reversal did in Street Fighter 6.
Yeah, V Shift, like I said, V Shift made characters like Dhalsim and Poison super good at the end of 5 because they were both like top 5 at the end when both of the characters were like not, I don't want to say not great, because Poison was underrated and Dhalsim was underrated as well. But they definitely skyrocketed when V-Shift came out and they had like a defensive option to really get out of a lot of characters' pressure. So that was kind of the shakeup people were looking for. Even, like I said, with Vanilla to Super, there was a big shakeup as well. But
right. I think even just the frame data, the way they changed frame data for characters was much more dramatic between the Street Fighter seasons than Street Fighter 6 season 1 to 2. It felt very mild in retrospect, aside from a handful of characters, like maybe like a JP, right?
Yeah. Like the numbers gotta be on, I think the numbers gotta be a certain way because of drive rush, burnout, all that kind of stuff that just adds like the +4 to like a lot of your options. It just has to be like that. They can't really change too much with the frame data because the game might break. Somebody might get a infinite or something along those lines just because I changed this move from -1 to 0 or something.
Right. Yeah, the game is definitely built on a house of cards. Very well constructed and well designed for what it is, but it's very constrained because of all the dependencies in that sense, which is why I've always made that comment. I feel like season 1, the game was finished. Like it felt so finished when the game released. And I agree with your assessment about how things are so tied together. It's very difficult for them to make dramatic changes because burnout, the resource management, all the different mechanics with the drive system are so interdependent that they have to be extremely careful about it. So it's a miracle the game came out the way it did, not being completely broken. And it felt very complete. So I do want to give Capcom a lot of props for that. But I do think it really means that we're going to have a lot of not exciting patches. Like, for the most part, the patches aren't that fun. Like, I feel like that
there aren't that game-changing. Or like,
right.
Yeah, they're not that game-changing, I feel like. Like, they're not adding, wow, I can't believe they did that kind of change.
Right. Yeah, I feel like with the Street Fighter season balance patches, it really was like Christmas morning. Like you were gonna see who got a brand new bicycle and then who got a lump of coal in their stockings. Like there was a real like crazy moment of everybody having all this discovery, and that still exists, of course, with Street Fighter 6 when there's a big patch. There's still that element of everyone sharing the new tech on Twitter and things of that nature, but it's not much. Like some characters, it's like one little conversion change or one little extra frame trap or something. It often doesn't really feel like there's that much going on with these balance pad changes in the same sense what it was with Street Fighter 5. I mean, I feel like overnight there'd be a whole world of differences. They took a lot of risks with the Street Fighter patches, and they had the liberty to do so because there's less central mechanics Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the game was bad, right? It started off really bad, so there's nothing to lose. I think there's something interesting about that aspect of having nothing to lose, where you can just like say, "Fuck it, we're going ham on this patch."
You're going in with the you can't lose mentality. That people already think the game sucks. I'm just gonna make it like they're either gonna make it better or they're gonna make it worse. So they're either gonna make the game really, really bad and then everyone's gonna stop playing it, or they're gonna make it really good and people are gonna praise it. So you're taking risk and you don't have to care because that's the predicament you're in.
Right. Yeah, that's why I think it's so interesting with Street Fighter. Street Fighter 6 released so good. I mean, I obviously have some complaints about the core gameplay, but like relatively for a fighting game, it's such a great product and like so finished. I'm like, where do they go from here? So we might just have to get used to more boring patches. But if they keep up the frequency, I think it's okay, because like the most recent mini balance patch is actually almost as big as the season 2 balance patch, I felt like. So if they hit that scale of patch frequently enough, I think the audiences will be satiated, because I always talk about this, and people, I see comments calling me crazy or thinking I'm stupid. But, balance patches are content. It's not just the goal of making it so that the game is approaching some idealized version of what it should be. That's not necessarily the goal of anybody involved, right? Maybe players are thinking that's what the developers are thinking, but sometimes the goal is just to have new content, new things to do in the game so that people are interested, or to shake up the meta. Like, that's just the goal. And maybe one person on the team thought the current meta is the ideal meta of the game, but they said, let's mix it up so that there's something fresh to deal with, a new problem to solve for the community. That is a huge aspect of modern gaming, and I think audiences expect that. That is part of the expectation for live service games, and it helps with player retention, because the highest moments of player retention are when you're solving novel problems. And once you hit the point where it becomes a little bit too difficult to keep making progress and solving things in order to get wins, then people fall off, and that's the end game meta, where only like the super dedicated players stick around to really figure out how they can win. With the most of the information known amongst the community, there's no more unknown information, and so patches are content in that sense. So for Street Fighter 6, I feel like they don't provide that much content in that sense with the patches, because there's not that much changing. But I think they could address that by just making these smaller patches a bit more frequent, like they did initially promise, and I guess they sort of delivered on the most recent balance patch. So we'll see if that trend continues, because if it's just one a year with these few changes, I think they're going to keep bleeding players.
I was gonna say, I feel like I feel like, I don't know how you feel about this. There's two things when I think devs are making a balance patch that their goal is. It's either got to be balance or fun, but I always feel like they're prioritizing fun over balance. They obviously want to keep the game balanced. They don't want the game to be, out of whack. But I do think they're going for stuff that'll make the game more fun. So I feel like they try to add stuff to be more fun. And, getting stuff is usually fun. Getting a new combo, getting a new conversion, all that stuff's like, wow, this is sick. I love this. So they're adding fun to the game to keep the new players engaged. And that's what the patches really are for. They're patching in more fun tools to play with.
Right. I think that's what I'm trying to communicate by calling it content, right? I agree with you 100%. Like we're go ahead.
No, but I don't think they're going purely for balance. Like, I don't think balance is their top priority. It's fun.
Yeah, I can see that vision too. Like, the balance is the guardrails, like within the bounds of these parameters for balance. Let's see how we can make the most fun possible, rather than let's aim to target a perfect balance. I agree 100%. Now, is that the vision of every developer? It's hard to say. Like, the thing about this is, like, we are getting these things delivered to us. The scriptures are being delivered to us from the developer gods above, and we don't have insight into their actual decision making, right? It's like they leave behind the changes in the patch notes, and we have to reverse engineer, like, what are they thinking? Like it's never that clear of a process, and per game there's very different philosophies, and it gets much more confusing. I know the Guilty Gear Strive fan base right now, they're always scratching their heads like, what the hell, what is the point of what the devs are doing right now? I think it's more clear with Street Fighter, but some games have it worse.
Some of my favorite patch notes are always the ones that are written like that. Like what Leo had trouble opening people up, I remember, was one of the patch notes, and everyone's like, Leo's a mix-up god. Who's playing Leo at the developer? Which one of the developers are bad with Leo, or kind of something like that. So I think that kind of stuff is always funny to hear.
Right. Yeah, the other one that came out was like one of the Capcom or Street Fighter producers said that, oh, we thought internally that Alex at the end of Street Fighter V was the best character in the game.
Yeah.
And I mean, I actually understand that one a little bit, because I think Alex was probably the strongest casual character in the game. I could see that argument if you start like changing the definitions a little bit.
Really? I don't understand how you got there, how anyone could get to Alex was the best in the game.
For a mid-level player, you do lariat and head stomp, and you're in, and you got a command grab. I think for a mid-level player, Alex could be considered super easy to get strong with. Now, obviously, at high level, no, he was trash still. But for mid-level, yeah, man. So it depends on your perspective and what level everyone's playing at around you as well.
Do you remember the combo fiend Yun had trouble getting in?
That's where it all started.
Yeah, that was the blueprint.
Right. That was for Ultra Street Fighter 4. If people don't know this, it was they actually tried to bridge that gap between the devs and the community, which I applaud that effort, and I actually feel a little bad clowning on it, because it's a hard thing to do, but it's better to at least attempt it and get clowned on than to not attempt it for these devs. Because no matter what, if their perspective is slightly off or not worded correctly, the community's going to clown on it. Like, oh, the devs are scrubs. Like, oh god, my dev's a scrub. Like there's this whole like shock value that happens with it. But yeah, Combo Breaker had to read the script where Yun, who was already undoubtedly, undisputedly the number one character in 2012 AE edition, was then buffed with his OD lunge punch, was made +1 to get in, and Yun is an instant dive kick character, pretty much. Like he has a dive kick, one of the best in the game, to constantly get in no matter what. And then they gave him a metered move to just get in full screen for pressure, and he had a command grab. So I know Combo Breaker was probably reading that script like, I really need to say this. Like this is what the devs are thinking right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It all started from there, and it's been a wacky journey ever since. But to give the devs credit, I think that's a hard job. So I hope they can, but it needs to be done. We need this communication. I think setting expectations between the community and the developers, and having a healthy line of communication with some healthy boundaries as well, because you're not going to make everybody happy. There's always going to be disgruntled players who are very emotional and illogical in their complaints and criticisms. But having that healthy communication is overall good, even though sometimes the changes they make no sense, and their rationale makes no sense as well. But that's all the topics I had for 2024 year in review. I guess we can end this item on any hopes for the future in 2025 for the FGC. Do you have anything in mind?
Bring sports bring sports betting to the FGC, bro. Make people more engaged. I'm telling you, bro. That's all I've been doing. I mean, gamble responsibly, obviously, but bring sports betting. I'll get more people into the FGC. I know there's going to be a comment down there that's agreeing with me, and you're the GOAT, that one person.
Oh my god. Are you actually sports betting, iDom?
Oh, I sports bet on football, basketball.
No, this is a plague on society, iDom.
I'm a Laura player. Come on,
Oh, I can go on a whole rant about how I think gambling addiction is by far the most nefarious and evil addiction that can be thrust upon humanity. I think it destroys people's lives. It's bad, and it's everywhere now.
Alcohol is worse than gambling.
You think so? Alcoholism has higher rates of recovery than gambling. I mean, the stats are dark, dude. If you go with the stats of gambling addicts, it is nasty what happens to gambling addicts. It is really bad. But alcoholism is definitely really bad too.
They're both terrible.
So we should add alcohol sponsors and sports betting to fighting games to finally get people to stick with them.
All the people under 21 won't understand, but this is how we get more people into the FGC.
Unfortunately, it's correct, dude. It's crazy how sports gambling has been so integrated into like modern sports, and it's all over. Like you watch the NBA, it's sports betting everywhere. It's nonstop. But you have a point. Like it gets people engaged, and I mean, people have been doing side bets since the history of tournaments, and it is a huge fun. I think there's a bit of a difference between betting $5 with your fellow FGC member on a match of like who's gonna, if it's even or odd, like. What time on the clock does the first hit occur, even or odd? Like people bet on that kind of stuff at tournaments, or who's going to win. Like it's very common to bet amongst your friends. I think it's a little bit different than going all the way, but it would get people engaged. Maybe if we did it with like funny money, just like betting on who wins the tournament, something like that.
That's what we when you stream, like you do predictions on CPT events, and people love it. I'm telling you, it's a thing.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping for more gambling addicts in the FGC in the future. Okay, that's beautiful. Beautiful item. I guess I'll give mine as well. If I think about it, for 2025, I just hope people understand how to appreciate what we have in the FGC. You know, and as a voice who in the community who offers a lot of criticism at the developers, the tour, things of that nature. At the end of the day, I think it's important to remember that all of this could go up in smoke instantly, overnight. None of this is a given. Let's not take it for granted that we have this community of people who share a passion and want to see it grow and bring people into it. So always support where you can, be positive, be understanding, be critical, but also offer to help. I think there's a good balance to be found. And all of us, for myself included, that's me speaking to myself as well. And just remember, we are the FGC, so we are what we make of it, and let's all do our best in 2025. And that's it.
Agreed.
All right. I think that's a good place to end it there. Thanks again, iDom, for hopping on. Good conversation.
No problem. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Peace.